Please help me in welcoming Gina DeLappa.
Okay, I can admit this to you now, but when I flew across the country on a one-way ticket to start my USD graduate counseling program, I had a lot of dreams, a few textbooks, and no real clue what I was in for. But I was awfully excited. Sound familiar? Raise your hand if you've not yet studied Oberg's stages of assimilation. Don't be shy. I want to see hands. Okay, just about everyone. Well, Oberg outlined these stages that we go through anytime we're facing a cultural adaptation, cultural adjustment. And these stages include things like honeymoon, crisis, adaptation. Well, there's one phase that comes even before honeymoon, and that's pre-departure, real technical term. But it's an important stage, and at the time I was going through it, I had no idea what it was or even that it had a name. Fortunately, since then I've learned a thing or two, and over the next 20 minutes, you're going to hear about 5 turning points I experienced as a result of this program, but more importantly, you're going to pick up 5 keys you can apply to your own experience, whether you're in-state or out-of-state, school counseling or clinical mental health, just starting the program, or already an alum, or 8 days from graduation.
Yes.
Finally, faculty and staff, by the time you walk out these doors tonight, I think you'll have a much better idea of what this program means to me and why I'm so pleased and proud to work alongside you as we prepare the next generation of counselors. So, turning point number 1, pre-departure. I mentioned moving here from across the country, Michigan to be exact. And by the time I received the USD graduate catalog, I had already ruled out the program that I'd been considering. But here was this gorgeous campus on the cover of the catalog with palm trees that were all but swaying and winking at me. So I started flipping through, and I ruled out this program and I ruled out that one, and then up popped this counseling program. No prerequisites other than a bachelor's degree, check. Minimum GPA, check. No GRE requirement. Okay, that's when you know someone loves you. But most of all, the classes sounded perfect, far better than anything I'd been considering at USD or anywhere else. So I called my friend Steve in Atlanta, and he's known me since age 13, and I read him part of the program description and said, "What do you think?" He said, "Hello, that is so Gina DeLappa." You know something's right for you when instead of you finding it, it finds you, and everything just clicks. Okay, almost everything clicks. Try telling your Midwestern, conservative, entrepreneurial family and friends that you're pretty sure you're gonna A, move to California, B, to go to grad school, C, to study counseling. Counseling? Hey, reviews were very mixed. And they ranged from unconditional positive regard to St. Michael Archangel defend us in battle. Okay, in case you don't know, that's a prayer to ward off the devil. And I used it silently to fend off some of the criticism that was coming my way. Just to give you a mild example, I remember being at a party and someone saying, "Well, what if you don't get in? What about this? What about that? Then what are you going to do?" Hey, what if I do get in and it turns out to be the greatest thing since Trader Joe's peanut butter? No? Really? Say that with me. Really? Yes. I got in. And as I stood reading that acceptance letter, I knew 2 things, actually 3 things. 1, for the first time in my adult life, I would be living near my brother Jim and his family. They had moved out here decades ago. 2, I would be putting my career on a whole new track. 3, there were a lot of things I would miss about home, but winter wasn't one of them. Have you ever been utterly stoked and at the same time scared out of your wits? That pre-departure stage was exciting, but it was rough, and I had no map to help me guide my way through it. But within a few days of getting that acceptance letter, I stood at a big blue mailbox holding an envelope, and in that envelope was my enrollment fee. And I said a little prayer as I let it drop out of my hands, out of sight and out of reach. There was no turning back. And from that day to graduation, I never once questioned my decision to be here, probably because I didn't have time. But that leads us to key number 1. Don't let fear get in the way of your dreams. Not your own fear, and especially not other people's fear. Let them own that. You're here to light the world on fire, and I'm trusting you not to take that literally. But don't let fear get in the way of your dreams. Turning point number 2, meet my new professor, Dr. Ron Johnson. I'm sure you remember meeting your professors for the first time. I will never forget sitting in a hot, sweaty classroom on my first day of theory class. Most of us were brand new to the program. We started class that day with a moment of silence. And then Dr. J engaged us in a discussion around what it meant to be a professional counselor. And he kept saying, "Nobody's beyond my therapeutic reach," which of course is a caricature of counseling. Nobody's beyond my therapeutic reach. And while we all understood his point intellectually, I think down deep we all secretly thought, I'm going to be the exception. And at first it seemed like we were the exception. If you've been through practicum, you know what an incredible high it is to have met with your first real clients. I remember just flying home after that experience, windows down, stereo up, just belting out a tune at the top of my lungs. Some of you are smiling because you've done it too. We all have. I think I even saw the Dalai Lama do it last month when he left campus. On a more serious note, how many of you remember that song, "Where Were You When the World Stopped Turning"? Remember that? I was in a hot, sweaty classroom on my first day of theory class, hearing my professor say, "Nobody's beyond my therapeutic reach." Well, it wasn't long before I understood Dr. J's point. And I've since learned this from life in general and counseling in particular. There are some people who need a little more and others for whom nothing will ever be enough. That comes from DeForia Lane's book, Music as Medicine. I'll say it again. There are some people who need a little more and others for whom nothing will ever be enough. And when you meet folks from that second category, you must be willing to do whatever it takes to look out for their best interest and at the same time take care of yourself. In fact, that's key number 2. It comes from Dr. J. Preserve your mental health at all costs. You might have also heard him say, preserve your mental health at all costs, even if it means taking you out. Turning point number 3, goals versus reality. Early on in Dr. Z's Intro to Counseling class, she had us write down our goals for graduate school. Let me read you part of what I wrote. To train for a career where I'll get paid to listen. To become an expert in something rather than spending my days merely interviewing experts. To help people with their lives, not just help companies make more money. Oh, and I wanted to graduate with 2 job offers, one in Michigan where I was from, and one in California. And I wanted to have a signed book contract. Okay, I think that's called fantasy fiction. In the end, I graduated with 1 job offer and a signed article contract. But for what it's worth, I only needed 1 job offer, just as you need only 1 job offer. And the one I received happened to be for the exact job I wanted, Assistant Director of Career Services at Grand Valley State University, just outside Grand Rapids, Michigan. gvsu.edu. That's not a paid endorsement, and they don't have a counseling program, so don't bother. But that article I wrote turned into a guest column, and the guest column led to a regular column, one of which, through no intervention on my part, ended up being required reading in my nephew Justin's management class at Michigan State. What are the odds? Score 1 for Aunt Gina, score 1 for the USD counseling program for making it possible. Like you, I poured everything I had into my grad school experience, both inside the classroom and outside. I wrote articles. I attended the ACA conference, and the following year presented at ACA. I would not and could not have done that last part without the support of Dr. Z and the behind-the-scenes coaching from Dr. J. Every professor I had here added something to my life, namely wisdom and encouragement. Like you, I was a member of Chi Sigma, but unlike you, I was not active. You have built and branded this chapter into something lasting and memorable. Be proud of that. You were my inspiration to renew my membership. So here's the big thing to know about goals versus reality. We need ambitious goals because without them, we're all like a big rudderless boat. But once you've set your goals, stay open when something even better comes along. To put it more succinctly, raise the bar and leap over it. It's not to be confused with build a bridge and get over it. But I borrowed that first line, which is actually key number 3, from a former boss who said in my last review something like, Gina sets the bar high and leaps over it. A few months later, we broke up. No, we didn't break up. But after 4 solid years of working together, we parted ways on the best of terms. And that brings us to pivotal moment number 4, saying goodbye. No matter how much you love your current or future job, there may come a time when you're called to leave it behind. Why? Because there's something even better waiting for you. You'll know it in your bones, even if you can't quite put it into words. Remember, the enemy of the best isn't something bad. The enemy of the best is something good. In my case, I was up for a promotion and a pay raise, but my priorities were shifting. For one thing, I had just lost my childhood best friend unexpectedly, and the loss felt primal. We had known each other since age 4. I still remember her tiger costume from preschool Halloween party. And we had spoken on the phone just 2 months before she died. Susie was beyond therapeutic reach, and for a while after she passed, so was I. What kept me going, and some days still does, is an almost childlike belief that I could make her proud, and I would. Along with this life-altering loss came sort of a dual realization that I was being called to do something more with my life, and whatever it was, I needed to get on with it. So after several months of soul-searching and a well-timed pep talk from my dad, I met with my boss, and together we came up with the best possible transition plan. Meanwhile, I was mentally making my way back to San Diego. I tell you all of this to help you make sense of your own transitions because you're going to be going through them for the rest of your life. And it takes more than a counseling degree and more than a license to get through them successfully. Let me read you a brief paragraph from a book that I read before entering grad school and one that I've read a couple of times since, The Way of Transition by William Bridges. Here's what he writes. Transition does not require that you reject or deny the importance of your old life, just that you let go of it. Far from rejecting it, you are likely to do better with the ending if you honor the old life for all that it did for you. It got you this far. It brought you everything you have. But now, although it may be some time before you are comfortable actually doing so, it is time for you to let go of it. Your old life is over. No matter how much you would like to continue it or rescue it or fix it, it is time to let it go. Brought to you by Hallmark. Growth doesn't tickle. But you didn't sign up for this program, much less Chi Sigma, so that you could be comfortable. You signed up for it so you could grow and continue to grow, so that you could draw others toward greater health, not just with your micro skills, but with your life. Here's how to make growth easier, and this is key number 4. Leave at your peak and leave on good terms. My parents taught me that, especially that last part. Don't just serve somebody papers. Go out of your way to show respect for your employer, especially your boss, and for that matter, your instructors. Think about how you would like to be remembered because you may have to live with it for the rest of your life. So leave good tracks. We've now arrived at turning point number 5, teaching in this program. Do you know what's even more rewarding than presenting at the ACA conference? Flying up to San Francisco to watch you present. Playing a role in your personal and professional development. The paycheck doesn't hurt, but it's not about the check. It's about you. One of the reasons you're active in Chi Sigma is to network, yes? To promote scholarship, research, etc. Keep at it. But while you're networking formally, remember to keep networking informally. A couple of examples of how this has paid off in ways I hadn't planned on. When I was frustrated with the Michigan licensure process and how long it was taking, I called Dr. Z and told her I was thinking about giving up. She listened and then wisely counseled me to hang in there. Somehow I did, and now I'm licensed. Dr. J, when I would come back to San Diego to visit, he would sometimes have me speak in his classes. That's eventually how I was invited to serve as an adjunct instructor/supervisor. And I've been at this role long enough to know if there's one thing you as students don't like, it's surprises. Am I right? If I'm right, give me a big, oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that was even better than I thought. I don't like surprises either. But as I look back over my experience at USD, from holding that graduate catalog for the first time to standing before you today, I can see that this whole trip has been one long medley of surprises. And I don't like medleys either. But as my friend Rick said when he started his grad program, I've never been more clueless about where I'm going to be 2 years from now, or more excited about where I'm headed. Isn't that good? I'm going to put that on my tombstone. That brings us to our 5th, I'll let you ponder that later. That brings us to our 5th and final key. Don't try to figure it all out. I mean, have some kind of plan and go after it. You're already doing that just by being here. Beyond that, enjoy the journey. Say yes as much as possible to the opportunities that come your way. I did, and it led me to one of the greatest gifts I could have possibly imagined that day 11 years ago when I stood at a big blue mailbox and dropped in my enrollment fee. It led me to you. I know, serve it on toast, right? It's corny, but it's true. 2 weeks ago, I was telling someone what a privilege it is to work with counseling students and to get to know them. And you know what he said to me? He said, but then they fly away. I said, they're supposed to. What matters is not that you or I fly away, but that we landed here in the first place. That to me is a privilege beyond words. And I challenge you, as I challenge myself, to grow that gift by giving it away, to never stop learning, to take what we've received and to keep on paying it forward in as many ways as possible and to have a blast doing it. Finally, to those of you being honored tonight, my highest high five. To each and every one of you, I would say you're on a mission to the stratosphere, and this program is just the beginning. Prepare for takeoff.